Benjamin Franklin is famous for many notable achievements throughout his life. As one of the founding fathers of our country, a drafter and signer of the Declaration of Independence, and as our first U.S. Postmaster General. He is also remembered for his many pithy, memorable quotes, such as, "A penny saved is a penny earned. If you lie down with dogs, you'll get up with fleas." And one of his most famous, "Nothing is certain except death and taxes." To this final quotation, I would add one word: change. Paradoxically, change is one of the constants in our lives, one of the certainties that we can count on day in and day out, year after year. One of my favorite stories about change involves the captain of a U.S. warship who was at the helm during what could be considered a perfect storm at sea. Returning from war games off the eastern seaboard, he posted lookouts to counter the thickening fog and high seas. At 1800 hours, the lookout to port warned of a light directly ahead and on a direct collision course. The captain immediately signaled, "Whoever you are, steer 5 degrees right rudder." Immediately the reply came back, "No, you steer 5 degrees right rudder." Angry and frustrated, the captain sent a second message. "I am a captain in the United States Navy. Now steer 5 degrees right rudder." Back came the reply, "Well, I am a United States seaman, second class. Please steer 5 degrees right rudder." With the distance rapidly closing, the irritated captain could contain himself no longer and screamed into the radio, "Sailor, this is the United States battleship Lexington. We move for no one. Steer 5 degrees right rudder or take the consequences. Now, who are you?" And back came the calm reply, "Please yourself, Captain, but we're the United States Lighthouse at Cape Canaveral." In the many twists and turns of our lives, the unexpected often confronts us, and we are forced to change course or crash, either literally or figuratively. We're just going along our way like this ship captain, certain that we know what tomorrow brings, certain that we know what lies ahead, where the dangers are and where they aren't. And then suddenly an unexpected reality emerges. The world suddenly changes around us, or people's expectations of us are very different than we thought they were. Some of the change that confronts us is external, completely beyond our control. Who among us did not make significant changes during the pandemic? Suddenly we were quarantining, Zooming with family and friends, going to Publix at 7:30 in the morning to avoid the crowds. And now, today, we're dealing suddenly with 40-year high of inflation, an unwelcome intrusion affecting our gas bills and wreaking havoc on our budgets. And many of us are affected by the unwelcome change, to be sure, in airline schedules, with a shortage of pilots and ground crew resulting in delayed or canceled flights. Who could have anticipated this? Change. It's all around us, and it is certain. Then there's behavioral change, more internal rather than external. Those changes that are suggested by the gentle or not so gentle nudging of a loved one or friend, requiring us to make an internal change, to see anew the possibilities of who we might become if only we're willing to take that first haltering step. And in case you've been wondering in the story of the ship captains, This is where our story from the Gospel of Luke comes in. Jesus is a friend of Mary and Martha, who often visits in their home. Today, he's just stopped in after a long walk on a hot, dusty road. And as the custom of his day, he is greeted by Martha with warm hospitality. Hospitality was central in the life of Jesus' community. In first century Judaism, Abraham was heralded as the supreme practitioner of hospitality. In the well-known story we just heard from the book of Genesis, he and Sarah reach out in hospitality to 3 heavenly strangers, offering them a meal of milk, curd, calf meat, and cakes. While they are eating, one gives them the seemingly impossible news that Sarah will bear a son in her old age. Sarah is 90. She laughs. A few years prior to Jesus' ministry, a large monument was erected by Herod the Great on the supposed site of this meeting, not only commemorating that particular event, but highlighting the centrality of hospitality in first century Judaism. Why is it that hospitality was so central in the life of the first century Jew? Because they believed that how they welcomed the stranger was how God would welcome them at the great end-time banquet in the sky. If they received the stranger warmly, God would receive them in kind. Likewise, if they did not receive the stranger warmly, they would be received in the same way. So for this reason alone, it is not surprising that Martha welcomes Jesus into her home with open arms. She has a sister named Mary, but Martha is distracted by her many tasks, and unlike Mary, she's not sitting at the feet of Jesus and listening. Instead, she's irritated at her sister, so she comes to Jesus and says, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." The Lord answers her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." Now, this was always one of my favorite passages in the Bible. Here at last was my ticket out of cooking, cleaning, and housework. Jesus himself clearly stated, didn't he, for everyone to hear, that Mary had chosen the better part. Here at last was my vindication. But alas, that is not and never was the intent of this story of the 2 sisters. No, I did not have my longed-for free pass. Instead, I was convicted. I was convicted in a much deeper way. Jesus does not say, "Ditch the housework, let the dust mites gather." He doesn't say, "Leave the cooking to your sister, your mother, your spouse, or your friend." No, he says, "Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things." The problem with Martha is not that she is busy serving and offering hospitality. In fact, Jesus commends this kind of service to labor over and over and over in the Gospels. Her problem is not that she's most likely preparing a meal, but rather that she is worried and distracted. The word translated distraction here has the connotation of being pulled or dragged in different directions. Can anybody relate to that, being pulled and dragged in a lot of different directions? Martha's worry and distraction prevent her from being truly present with Jesus and cause her to drive a wedge between her sister and herself and Jesus. She has missed the one thing needed for true hospitality. There is no greater hospitality than listening to your guest, and how much more so when that guest is Jesus. So Jesus says that Mary has chosen the better part. I prefer to see Jesus' words to Martha not as a rebuke, but as an invitation. Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. The one thing needed, the one thing missing, is for Martha to receive Jesus, to listen to his words, to take time out of her busy schedule to put herself in his presence, to revel in what it's like to be in the presence of Christ, to sit at his feet. And we can do the same today. In prayer, just putting ourselves at the feet of Christ. Prayer doesn't have to be words. It's just putting ourselves in Christ's presence and listening. That's what Mary's doing. She's listening. And that is the learning here. Not that the story gives me or anybody else a free pass on housekeeping or cooking, but that, like Martha, we are being nudged or coaxed by Jesus to perhaps change our own behavior, to be less distracted, less scattered. That's not always easy, is it? We live in a distracted age where the amount of information available to us is far more than we can possibly take in and absorb. It's like trying to drink water from a fire hose. And then we've got technology which distracts us. How many people are distracted by their cell phones even when they're driving? To the point that 1 in 4 traffic accidents in the United States are due to cell phone usage. That's a problem. So Jesus is telling Martha, be less distracted, less scattered, less focused on many different things instead of the one thing that really matters, the one thing that is life-giving rather than life-draining. Spending time with Jesus, sitting at his feet, drinking in his wisdom, feeling his love, listening to his word for you. Sometimes there may be something as obvious as a lighthouse that's right in front of us on a pitch black night, forcing us to change course. At other times, we may receive a gentle or not so gentle nudging from a loved one or a friend that beckons us to look anew at our behavior and make changes for the better for our own sake and for the sake of those who love us and who we love. I wonder if Martha changed after hearing Jesus' words. I wonder if we will.